Hello everyone and welcome to the panel Building the Right Infrastructure for EV in India. I'm glad to welcome Mr. Ramesh Durarajan, who's head Sales Marketing Customer Care for Electric Vehicles Business Unit Tata Motors, and Mr. Ravi Kiran Annaswamy, who's CEO and co-founder of Numosity Technologies. Welcome gentlemen, I'm glad to have you on board.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Ravi, let's begin with you. If you could throw some light on what are the factors acting as a catalyst for the rising interest in EV in India?
Yeah, I think if you look at in the last few years, there has been extremely high interest in electric vehicles. I think it's for us, what we watched over the years is it started off with logistics and light commercial vehicles, which people looked at the last mile vehicles where there was a clear business case to move towards electric vehicles. Because the economics of whether it's a passenger movement or the goods movement, you can really see a return of investment by moving to electric vehicles in a year to year and a half. I think that was the first push that people started to look at electric vehicles as a feasible way, which means a three-wheeler or a four-wheeler form factor, which people want to adopt. Post that, there has been a series of two-wheeler vehicles which are coming in, which is 85% of the Indian market anyway, otherwise. So I think once that option started coming up to people and with the subsidies pitching in, the price point started to come closer to the IC vehicle prices. I think that is the second point. And thanks to all the well-funded startups who are talking about the two-wheelers with advertisements now. I mean, if you recently noticed, there are advertisements on TV and other channels where you started seeing electric vehicles. I think that is stoked a lot of interest in the two-wheel segment. Now, coming to cars, I think that is something which will probably take off in few years, not immediately. I'm quite sure we will hear more from Durarajan. But the point here is also there, if you look at the choices available, and again, on a long-range drive when you do, people see that electric vehicles are giving them the best benefits. Again, the taxi fleets there take care of the business cases coming up in the right way. So these are different factors what I see. On top of all of that, of course, we should not forget the rising fuel prices, which also psychologically makes people to look at another alternative means of using a vehicle. And that's where EV comes in as a very interesting point for many people, common man, businessman, everybody looking at either a logistics or a passenger. I think both sides are starting to look at it very interestingly.
Thank you, Ravi. Yes, there is a silver lining right now, and this is the time for EV to capitalize on the interest. But Mr. Ramesh, I'd like to hear from you. What is the approach that we should take to ensure efficient implementation of the infrastructure for EV in India?
So, as Ravi Kiran rightly said, I think the process has started. And I feel that it is in the right direction, and all of us are in the right direction. I think the huge amount of support that's also coming in from the central government and many of the state governments also to promote electric vehicle technology. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the fact is that it is to ensure an efficient implementation of the EV infrastructure. Sorry. What comes to first to mind? What first comes to mind is the charging station. Now, one of the reasons, and that could probably be the catalyst for promotion of vehicles, whether it is two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, is the availability of the charging infrastructure out there at the place where the customer wants it. Now, as per our study and as has been observed globally, 80 to 90% of the people at most of the times would like to charge their vehicles at their residence or at their place of work. And it's only in the case of long distance travels, emergency situations, etc., that people use the fast chargers. I want to put it on record out here that with every vehicle, Nexon vehicle that we sell, every Tigor EV that we sell, we also place a home charging unit at the residence or at the office of the customer as per their preference. So as the offices open up, the workplace charging is also beginning to get more and more traction. To build the confidence in the customers about the fast charging infra, a maximum number of fast chargers needs to be also installed within the city. And this is only to ensure that the anxiety is reduced. We have already built that in key metros. Our focus now is on the highways where the users would need them the most, as they have now started more of intercity travel, which earlier started off with the intra-city travel. Now, today, people need to plan about the chargers, wherever the chargers are there. They want to take those routes. They're very, very careful in ensuring that there are chargers installed in these locations. So subsequently, with multiple charging stations being available on the road, at key hotels, at dhabas, etc., people would be able to use their EVs as regularly as what they use the ICE vehicle for long distance travel.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Ramesh. Let's talk a little bit more about the integration of the charging infra. Now we need to integrate that with the transport networks and the electricity supply also. Throw a little bit more light on how we can ensure that, of course, for the urban areas, but also going down to tier 2, tier 3 cities. How will that pan out?
Sure, maybe I'll start. So when you look at the charging infrastructure, that is something which we've been working on for a few years now. There are two different aspects we need to remember. One is the user experience, and the second is how these equipment are powered and managed. When you look at the user experience, maybe India is moving into a space where we will have the first time self-serve mode of fueling your vehicles. Whereas all this time we had somebody to fuel our vehicles, but now most of this charger would be unmanned, and then you need people to discover how to use this equipment. So this is where probably a lot of IT systems are falling in place, whether it's an app-based system, RFID-based access, discovering through maps, discovering through apps, and then easy, seamless payment and the process which works with the charger. This will drive one level of adoption because people are then comfortable using this equipment. I think this is going on. It will become very comfortable in a year or so. At the same time, when you are getting this infrastructure, you need to do it in a way that they have uninterrupted power supply, a good quality of power, and at the same time integrate in a way that when the car comes for a charge, there is an electricity available at any point. We have seen challenges for our customers with whom we work. One of the first challenges they face is to really get the connections in place, the right quality of power, what they get at that location. But I think this is getting sorted out as we are expanding in bigger numbers. We'll see many of these problems getting sorted out. India is there. I think we are getting these things working, whether it's a fast chargers or slow chargers, all of this charging equipment is coming up on wherever, highway, houses, and all of them. But we need to plan. I mean, that's what we always talk about. From a last mile, India is a power surplus country, but we always have a challenge at the last mile, at the distribution networks. So we need to ensure that we systemically plan, both from the utility point of view, but by the charge point operators who are doing it. If we do it in a very planned way, I think we will scale up very fast. But if these things mushroom in an ad hoc way, I think we will have more issues with the charging infrastructure than actually making it work. If everybody plans it out, I'm quite sure we're in the right.
Sure, Mr. Ravikiran, and thank you for detailing out. I will ask you later about how different stakeholders can come together for this, because this is not just an innovator or investor kind of a thing. Mr. Dorairajan, I'll ask you the same question. Would you like to add some points to what Mr. Ravikiran said?
I think Ravikiran has covered it well. But what I would just also wanted to add is that there cannot be ad hocism in this entire working system. There cannot be. Because at the end of the day, we must all understand that we are creating a market and we are creating a future for people. And this is the right time for us to ensure that we do it in a manner which is very calibrated. For example, one of the things that I can tell you that there are multiple apps available that people use, different apps to locate chargers, etc. There are countries overseas wherein you have one single app which can guide you across to the different charging stations. Now, this is if everyone comes together and ensure that, then the customer is greatly benefited by that. Now, that's how we should be looking at. And as Ravi said, one is to ensure supply of power at the right time so that when you walk in. So today, when I go to a fuel station, more often than not, I am 100% sure that I would be able to fill fuel in my vehicle. In the case of a charging station, if a customer is to go out there and say he goes out there with his family and is stuck at about 11 p.m. and then suddenly finds that he's not able to charge a vehicle, now that probably can be some sort of a stumbling block, as because that then becomes a mindset issue whether I am very safe in electric vehicles. So I think the way forward is a more calibrated approach. The way forward is to make life simple for EV users, give confidence to them, ensure that they are in a position to locate a charger. They must be in a position to find out from the app, and that's what we have been doing. That whether how far is the charging station, whether the charging station, how many vehicles are out there, how much time would it take for my vehicles to be charged, etc. Now, these are some of the things that if we are able to bring to the table, I think we are on the right track.
Could you also highlight some of the gaps that exist, not just in terms of, say, charging stations or the availability of it, but also in terms of the production?
In terms of production? Yeah, sorry, Ravi. Yeah.
No, go ahead, Ramesh.
No, I thought it was meant for you. Sorry.
No, any one of you can answer. Mr. Dorarajan, if you could start,
Yes,
then
go
I'll
ahead.
ask Ravi the same thing.
Yeah, so you're talking in terms of production of?
Production of the vehicles in itself.
Okay, production of the vehicles. Okay. So as far as Tata Motors is concerned, and today I must tell you that we have got more than 10,000 plus vehicles on the road, the electric vehicles. We bring vehicles in the Nexon category and in the Tigor EV category in the personal space. We also have a fleet segment in the shared mobility, which is branded as Express T. Now, as far as production, etc. is concerned, I don't think that today the customer, since this is a new technology, is wanting to test, experiment, etc. I think one of the things that we have at least found out from Tata Motors perspective is that if a customer takes a test drive of this vehicle, 9 out of 10 times, if he's decided to buy, he will opt for an EV vehicle because he finds it convenient. And there are many people who talk about, consciously talk about environment. So as far as the production goes, as far as putting on vehicles on the road, both in the personal segment as well as in the fleet segment, I think Tata Motors is geared up, and we have a very clearly laid out plan as to how we are going to go about it. But as I said, putting on vehicles on the road is just one part of it. What actually matters is also getting the entire ecosystem in place so that as you move forward and more vehicles come out there, people must be in a position to comfortably say that I am buying an EV vehicle because I can travel anywhere. As I said in the beginning, people are moving in from making this as their second or third vehicle. They are now making it as a primary vehicle. And when a person invests about 15 or 16 lakh of rupees, he has the right to use this vehicle for intercity travel, long distance travel, etc. Now, as quickly as we are in a position to create this ecosystem, as I said, of putting charging stations, etc., I think his confidence level will go high, and you will see more and more vehicles on the road. And that's true, and that's what we have been experiencing over a period of time.
Thank you, Ramesh. Ravi, your view on this?
Yeah, I think I echo what Ramesh talked about. It's infrastructure planning. I always take a parallel to what happened with the telecom industry in India 20 years back. The cell towers were minimum. The call rates were high. The supply point was very low. You had only few handsets where you can make a call from. But the moment the market moved, I mean, there was always a question, chicken and egg, which one will I invest, the infrastructure or the device? But if you notice, once certain regulations were set in place and the supply chain increased, the more options you got, the more price points came down, people started buying these in big numbers. And then they're looking at where do I get my cell tower? Very similar to where do I get my charging infrastructure now? So there will be a business which will evolve across both sides in the ecosystem. So the more the supply options available for consumers, the more the demand on the charging infrastructure, which means there are more equipment vendors or charge point operators will come up who will ensure this infrastructure is built because they see a business case for them. I think this is at the cusp. Right now, maybe there are decent number of charging stations compared to the cars available on the market. But imagine this number, the number of EVs multiplied by 10 times. Do we need now 10 times charging station or do we need fast charging? Can we do a smart planning of slow chargers at certain place, residential, commercial, workplace, fast chargers on the highways like Ramesh also mentioned? How do we plan? The moment we plan, we may not need big numbers, but with the right planning, we may be able to even manage 5 times the growth or 10 times the growth. But these are things which are happening right now. Everybody is thinking and planning. We will see this evolution will happen in a good way. And we should be happy because India has seen a big growth in telecom by doing the right things 20 years back. And I'm quite sure if we follow a very systemic way, it will also happen now. And that's the way I see the vehicles and the charging infrastructure evolving, very similar to what happened 15, 20 years back.
Sure. Thank you, Ravi. Now, yes, both of you, when you were talking about the infrastructure, spoke about how other geographies also do it. There are successful geographies who have done the rollout and are ahead of us in a lot of ways. What are the lessons that we can imbibe from those geographies right now? Ravi, would you like to start?
Yeah, so I will talk from a charging infrastructure side because I think Ramesh probably
Yes,
can talk
please.
on the vehicle side. On the charging infrastructure, if you look at different countries have taken a different approach. If you look at the US market, it's a very consolidated, centralized charging networks coming up pan-US, with some are vehicle OEM led, some are vehicle OEM backed, and they have a pan US networks where they're not taking their brand names, but there are large networks which are setting up. So that's one model of doing it. And it has worked well, where one player puts a lot of capex, gets the investment right, and gets a pan country network. When you look at some market like Europe, it's a very fragmented. There are several players, and they install and they make their business in specific areas. And that is where a concept like a roaming, connecting all of them into a pan geography network comes up. India has been right now still evolving. We have not really seen whether it will become a pan-India network or will it be a fragmented network connected by a roaming chain. I don't think we need to adopt any one of them as a standard to go forward. My strong belief is we will see a few players who will evolve as the consolidated players, large players of offering infrastructure. But at the same time, India is a much larger country, much diverse in terms of our vehicle portfolio, two-wheelers, three-wheelers coming up. So we will have a fragmented charging network also across the country, and they will eventually get connected to or aligned to one of these larger charging networks eventually. But in the beginning, it is good for the country if we allow for these fragmented networks to come up, because they feel the business case and they will grow. So it will be a mix. My learning or my reading of the market is we will see both consolidated players like Tata Power having a large network. We will have few more players, but you will also find like a telephone STD PCO booth. You will probably see a charger in every corner, but that may not be run by the larger network, run by individual entrepreneurs who will eventually align with one of these networks. So we will see the market growing both consolidated network point of view and also very, very fragmented. And it's good for India if it happens this way.
Yes. And I'll take that a step ahead and ask Mr. Thorirajan. Ravi spoke about how other geographies are doing it, and though we don't need to adopt it, what are some of the lessons that you see your counterparts doing outside, and what is the competitive advantage that we can stand on?
Yeah. So one thing, as Ravi rightly said, I think India is a very diverse country. I think we have multiple countries within the country itself. So obviously, the way the ecosystem will grow, will all something will be localized, something will be on a pan-India basis. It is good that we also have the government support for the charging companies setting up charging units, etc. And that actually will give a fillip to this entire activity. I think the government is doing the right thing by not only promoting EV as but promoting EV overall, in the sense that they have also understood this is what it is. Now, overseas, if you look at it, and I talked about it some time back, that you cannot be having multiple apps to help you find out, and I can't be carrying multiple apps to be chasing as to where I should go and charge. I think there needs to be some sort of synergy between everything so that we are in a position to understand very clearly as to where do I reach, what is that. The second thing about this, and that's something that we have been working very closely with Tata Power also, is to target the resident welfare associations, the RWs that we call. Now, this is something that can actually help in a big way. Now, probably rather than crowding the infrastructure points, etc., it is better you set it up also in the RWAs. Not only from Tata Motors perspective, it promotes in vehicle sales, but it also develops a confidence among the people out there. And you could have a semi-public charging station out there where you could ask the RWAs to allow public to also use it. And it could be a business model between the charging infrastructure company and the RWAs. So this is just one part of it as to how we can take, and there are multiple things. Now, one of the challenges that we'll continue to foresee in this country is availability of space, availability of adequate power, etc. Now, this is a challenge as we need to tackle as we move forward, because as Ravi rightly said, as more and more vehicles come on the road, and obviously the target is to put as many vehicles on the road, we need to see that simultaneously the infrastructure also starts growing rapidly. Now, this is the way I think countries abroad and all have tackled this situation, and I'm very sure that with our focused approach, we are on the track to do that.
Sure. So stay with me, Mr. Ramesh. I'll ask you a question on policy. What is your take on it? Of course, there's policy to promote the development of the infra network right now. Are there some things that we can also look at where the government needs to bridge the gap?
I think the government is doing its bit. For example, when you had the FAME 1 and the FAME 2, the announcements with the government wherein they were promoting the shared mobility space, etc. And the government is doing everything to give a fillip and a push to it. We also many of the state governments who have been announcing incentive schemes, etc., who have already executed it. We have also many of the state governments who are on the verge of getting it passed in the assembly and wanting to announce it. We have got many other state governments who have given a concession on the registration of the vehicle. So a lot of things that are happening at the ground level as we go and rapidly spread across different states, etc. Similarly, the government is also promoting they're also promoting support to the infrastructure, setting up of more and more charging infrastructure, etc. And I think they are doing their bit by ensuring that the right policy is in place. In fact, the Ministry of Power guidelines on deregularizing electricity usage for charging station, introduction of EV tariff, floating tenders for electrifying key highways and cities, the guidelines for installing stations in society, etc. I think state policies also promote the charging infra. The intent is right. However, we need only to ensure that the government support increases focus on execution also, so that the three major requirements of the charging infra, which is the place, the power, and a convenient location. If these three things can get sorted out quickly, I have a feeling that it will actually boost the proliferation of the charging network throughout the country.
Thank you, Ramesh. Ravi, your view on it?
Yeah, so I echo what Ramesh talked about, but I'm a little more market-centric guy. So my only point is government can only do the first step, which is to push to provide all the initial acceleration. But after that, I feel it will be very market-driven. As long as in India is always an entrepreneurial country, so both on fragmented markets. I'm again talking about from a charging infrastructure, not really talking from a vehicle OEM. From when you look at from a charging infrastructure, the more business case for people to invest in it, you will see a lot of micro entrepreneurs who will invest in this, and that would be very market driven. So there will be a lot of things which large companies, small companies will do it. And in the beginning, we have got the right ingredients. I mean, from the government, from a policy, state, central, all are in place. So with this acceleration, if we can get the momentum, it will be very, very market driven, and that acceleration will be much faster. And that's what I hope for, that we don't always depend on government. We should, the market itself should evolve in a way that there is clear business case for each player involved in the ecosystem, and each one would seize a business in it. Then the market will grow very, very rapidly.
So Ravi, last question for you. How can other stakeholders, and the stakeholders mean everyone, like say from investors, innovators, academia, policymakers, come together and build the ecosystem in a right way, not just for EV or for charging infrastructure, but also for deep tech ecosystem in India?
Yeah, so whenever I talk about ecosystem, I say EV is kind of more pillars, 4 to 5 pillars, which makes it. One is, you should remember, automotive industry is the first pillar, where everything is happening as an action because the vehicle comes from there. Energy comes from a utility, which is a completely a different industry, because that has existed for more than 100 years, and then they have their own systems in place. Third, you should remember that all of these are interconnected. So you need telecom, you need IoT in place, telecom in place for all of them to be connected. Otherwise, these systems will not work. Fourth, they all are going to give you a lot of data, a lot of information coming out, and all of them are cloud control. If you notice, chargers are cloud control, vehicles are connected vehicles now. All of that need a lot of software, a lot of big data analytics, if you want to use those words, cloud, all of those standard words which we spoke for last 10 years are now going to be an absolute mandatory requirement for this ecosystem. So if you notice now, an IT industry is involved in it, telecom industry is involved in it, power industry is involved in it, automotive industry is involved in it. And to top all of them up, you also now need newer industries coming up, like battery specialists we'll need, because battery is a main ingredient. You will need skilling of a lot of people across all these industries, which means an education system has to get ready to skill people across multiple industries. Now, it's not one industry playing a role. So which would mean that net, every player, every industry gets touched by an EV evolution or revolution, the way you want to call it, and all of us need to play a role in it. So my take on that is it's a multi industrial ecosystem, and everybody has a role to play in it. And as a country, we should look at how to get clean mobility as a topic, cutting across all of them, and get ready in each one of these areas, so that together we can grow faster. I think that's how I see it, and all these pillars have to come together.
Fantastic, Ravi. Thank you so much. Ramesh, I'll ask you now about the contribution of various stakeholders for not just the development of EV, but for the entire deep tech ecosystem in India.
Yeah. So I think carrying on with what, and a part of that has been answered by Ravi also. I think the OEMs have a very important role to play out there. At the end of the day, we have got to ensure that we put the right vehicle on the road as per the customer's choice, and we need to ensure that we live up to the commitment what it is. Now, obviously, these vehicles today, at this point of time, still appeals to the niche segment. Slowly but surely, as more and more vehicles are seen on the road, it will slowly graduate itself into a mass consumer game, and where people will start buying. And that will happen as people see more vehicles, people see more charging stations, people see that they can now safely buy this vehicle and use it as their primary car. And we have seen that transition already. So that's the number one part. The number two part is a lot of talks around the battery, etc., etc. Now the question is that slowly but surely all these things will settle down. Now these are still, I think we're still in a fairly nascent stage. It's about 2-3 years that the entire thing has started taking shape. So as things evolve and over a period of time, as people do understand the entire technology, you will start seeing people adapting to this. I think, as said earlier, the fact is that each of these stakeholders, and there are multiple stakeholders in this entire thing, the fact is each one of them will have to talk to each other. Now, what we talk about is the connected car per se. Now, the fact is that you get connected. Now, when you get connected, each one of them will have an eye on that. Everybody plays a critical role in that, in the success. So as an OEM, we'll make the right product. But to reach out, to make the product more and more comfortable for the customer, each one of them will have to step in and play their role. And I think if this is done in a very calibrated manner, I think we are on the right track.
Sure. Thank you, Ramesh. With this, we come to the end of the panel, and we have some interesting insights, not just the development of the infrastructure, but how various stakeholders can also contribute. What are some of the other geographies doing, how we can take some lessons, but also build on our own competitive advantage. And I would like to thank Mr. Ramesh and Mr. Ravi for taking time out, coming on this panel. Thank you, gentlemen. It was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you. Nice meeting both of you. Thank you.